Hello everyone. Oh, apologies, I'm just cutting myself a piece of card. Okie dokie. How are we all? Oh, look, there's loads of you here already. You're all waiting for me. Apologies, I was a little bit late. I'm just trying to get my head round this so I can do the best by Mary. Of course, it's her card I'm making today, and I want to put it across to you in a way that I don't confuse you or confuse myself either. So, how is everybody? Hi Connie, hi Janice, hi Janet. Oh, Marjorie, hi Marjorie, how are you? Lovely to hear from you the other day, and also when I was watching the Facebook Live from was it Crafting Live? I had a nice surprise and saw you sitting there. Did you enjoy the make and takes? Hello Helen, hi Jill, hi Linda and Sandy and Valerie. Who else do we have? Oh, Raylene, hi there, how are you? And Sue and all sorts, happy to be here. You need your snowman. Is it on its way to you, Connie? Hi, Beverly. Oh, have you already made this one, Beverly? Hi, Mum. How are you? Right, lots of you watching today. Hi, Jodie. Great. It's nice to have you all here. So, as you can see, this gorgeous little snowman has made it onto my desk. So today's the first time I'm using him, actually. So it'll be the first of many cards I make with him. I just haven't quite got my Christmas vibe on yet, but it's on its way. I've had a couple of other projects I've needed to get sorted first, but but you can see there on the side that this is the card I'm making today. It's Mary's card, which went down a storm when Lisa showed it on her Friday Night Live. Pretty card, it really is, and the fact that it's pink as well, I think really makes it for me as well. It's we can get so used to sort of sticking in our Christmas colours that it's nice just to do something a little bit different. And I think also actually this would be a really nice just seasonal card, not necessarily Christmas. And I'm just looking at the sentiment there. Mary's put on festive cheer, but I think easily if someone you know loves Christmas or loves snow in particular, I'm thinking of my sister who's watching at the moment. She loves her snow. If she had a birthday in December, I'm sure she would be more than happy to receive this as a birthday card as well. Right. Now, I think there's quite a lot to get through today, so I'm going to get on with it. What I'm going to do, hopefully show you two different ways to make this card. There's the way that Mary's made it, which is ingenious, it really is. But I think what I've done is created a slightly, it's still the same outcome, but I think I've worked out a different way to explain it to you. And for those who are less comfortable using the die cutting machine the way that we're going to use it first, it should make it an accessible card. So that there are two different ways. There's say the way that Mary's put it together, and I'll just show you. I've just mocked it up in white actually, and I'll show you sort of the bones of what Mary has made. I've only got one of those pieces, never mind. So basically the card blank is all one piece. That is the way that Mary has made this, and I will show you how to make this, but I've come up with another way where you can make it using two pieces and it's a little bit more straightforward, I suppose. But I will show you both ways because you're a capable bunch and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to do this as well. When I asked Mary how it was made, she told me initially it was all one piece and I thought I just couldn't get my head around it. And then she explained it and then it all became clear. So the card blank itself is one piece of card, as you can see there. And essentially it starts off as a 6x6 card blank, or a 6x6 gatefold card blank, which is how you get the front gates, I suppose, here. We then, let me put up the other slide actually. So before I continue, you'll need to get to grips with what we're using. This is what we're using. Let me just run that through quickly. So obviously we're using our snowman. We're going to come back onto him later on. The only difference I'm going to make to Mary's card is that I'm going to stencil and I will remember to emboss this week, the actual Wjnter Snowman image in full. Mary's used some other dies around that, and I'll show you that in a second. So I've used, the Wjnter Snowman. Then obviously to create the shape around the outside, we have the nested stitched bubble circles. So these ones here. Now to create the shape on the front gates here, I've used the, pop that down. I've used the EDGECUTZ Essential Edges. So you can see I've used the zigzag here, and that's the zigzag that we have on the top of the gates. Now the way that Mary's made her card, as you can see, we've got the layering up on the inside here, and say I have done it in white. We've got the snowman, the Wjnter Snowman, which has been fussy cut from the set, and the tree that was used to sit behind that is the fir trees. So this is a set from last year, a really popular set from last year. It was brought out for Christmas, but it really doesn't have to be a Christmas set. So we have the layering stencils, and we also have the embossing folder and dies for that. And it gives you the opportunity to stencil, die cut and emboss each of these 3 trees individually. So that's how I was able to get the tree for that. And that is where the tree came from in Mary's card. I hope I've read that right. That's from what I'm looking at. And then to create the gates at the front and the texture on the front, I'll be using the wood panel that you can see here. Okay, that's just an embossing folder, and obviously I'll be embossing it so we have the sort of the panels going that way. So that's everything I'm using. So I think it's important to get that out the way first, because I'll be dipping into each of those sets as we go along. And then if I just put this slide up, and I will put these slides up again at the end. Okay, so this is to make the card blank. For Mary's card, we need a 6x6 gatefold card. This is just to make the card blank. This isn't to do any of the stenciling or the die cutting. This is purely, the dimensions here are purely just to make the card blank. So you need the gatefold card, 6x6 gatefold card, and you need 2 pieces of 3x3 inch card, which can be embossed and mounted onto the front there. This is what will be embossed with the wood panel. Okay. So here we go. Let's just remove that so we have the full screen for you. So to create the card blank, I'm starting off to create the gatefold card blank with half a sheet of 12x12 paper. So I've basically got Lisa's textured cardstock I'm using for this 12x12 inch sheet, and I've just cut that in half, so we've got 6 inches by 12 inches. So what we need to do is score this. I'm going to use this and create it with the texture on the inside, because when these gatefold pieces are folded in, you'll lose the texture, but we'll be adding texture onto the top of it. So I found it quite important to keep the texture on this part of the cardstock, just to get so we don't lose that, the beauty of that texture there, or that linen look. So we have our piece of cardstock and our scoreboard. So we want to score initially at 3 inches, and then again at 9 inches. So we have our 6x6 template in the centre of the square there. So we just make our gatefold card, which you've probably made plenty of times before, and we just fold those gates in like so. Now, the first thing we need to think about is creating like the gates. So we need to cut down these front gates first. To do that, I found the simplest way, to be honest, was to measure the height of the gates that you would want, actually. So if you are going to make this on a multiple times, you'll get familiar with the size that you want to create these with. But initially I'm just going for 3 inches. So I'm making that first measurement and just marking that off at 3 inches and keeping the card closed. I'm just going to join those marks right across those 2 gates there, just a faint mark. Now we need to cut this down. Now, whether you use scissors or whether you use a trimmer, you're going to, or even a craft knife and a steel ruler, which I always used to use actually, but it's been a long time since I used a craft knife. But I'll just go with my scissors now. I trusted Bisque scissors. I think I used these last week, didn't I? So I'm just going to make that cut on both sides along the drawn line that I've just made. And I'm just snipping to the crease lines, so the 2 crease lines on the edge of the card there. So we have these areas which we don't need. And actually, in actual fact, you can use these squares then to decoupage on top of this, because obviously it's they're going to be exactly the same size if you're having your gates at 3 inches tall there. So I'm just going to cut those off and put those to one side, and we'll use them again in a bit. Okay, so already this is beginning to look more like Mary's card, like this, isn't it, as you can see. Now we need to cut the shape into the back here. So we take our scalloped or our bubble circle die from the set here. Okay, so we take the largest die. I mean, you could actually, in actual fact, I mean, thinking down this, so you could even scale this card down because we have smaller bubble dies here. So again, once you're familiar with making this, you'll find it a lot easier to perhaps even scale it down. Now, what I've done here, you see I've added 2 bits of just tape. They're just markers for me, really, because what we want to do is just partially cut the circle into the back here. I've made these 2 markers just past the halfway line, actually, on the die. And what this will enable me to do is position this circle die on this back section of the card blank and line up these 2 markers just below the, it's just below the gates actually, but you want the whole circle die to actually sit on the back of the card blank. So you want to line up the top of this die to the top of the card blank as close as you can. These 2 markers here are going to allow you to create a straight line, as it were. I found, and looking at Mary's one as well, just below half gives you a really nice circle or half a semicircle shape. And it just gives you the really nice proportions. So it's, if you want to do this, they say it might be just worth marking it. So I'm attached that onto the back of the card blank as well, so I know that that's not going to move. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in my die cutting machine, because this is the key part to making this card blank work, making it in this particular way. So I'm just bringing my die cutting machine there. I'm going to bring in my just move that out of the way. I'm going to bring in my cutting plates, which is oh, not too bad. I've got sparkly ones though. I know my sister's just getting into die cutting as well, and she'll be really quite keen on these sparkly cutting plates, although they don't look so sparkly these days. Right, so the key now is to actually cutting this in a particular way. Because we've attached the die to the back, we can fold these parts in over the top of the die, and because they're not touching the underside of this die, these aren't going to be cut. So to cut, we can fold these in over the top of the die, so it all keeps within the constraints of the cutting plates. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Now what we want to do now is line up on our cutting plates. It doesn't matter too much on the bottom one, actually. If you try and line it up on the bottom edge of the actual cutting plate itself, the one you cut into, then you'll end up falling off. But the key is this top one here. You want to line up the top, the bottom edge, so the edge that goes into the die cutting machine last, the one that stays closest to you. You want to line that up right on the edge of where you want the actual cut to be made. So basically the top of those gates. So it really does pay to close these gates in, and just by lining this up to the top of the gates, you are putting pressure only onto this part of the die. Okay, so when you actually put this through the machine, let me see if I can just get this more on screen for you now. There we are, let's do that way round. So I'm going to line that through and just feed that through. Make sure you see this lead, or the final edge that goes into the die cutting machine is only sitting just where we want that die to cut, and we just put that through. Just keep the flaps folded in, and you'll feel when that's all the way through, it sort of gives that sort of clunk, but in a good way, so you know that that's where that cut has been made. Now you can bring it back, or you can just take it straight through. I think it'd be a lot easier if I actually bring it back. You don't need to make that second cut, to be fair. I'll just end up going into the computer if I took it all the way through. So when I take this back and remove this from the cutting plate, okay, fair enough. Right, now I'm just going to move those off. Now that didn't cut all the way through because it slipped, and I think that's because I was showing you how that works, actually, because that's the first time that's actually done that this morning. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to line it up again. The beauty actually of Lisa's dies is that you can slot them back in place. And I think that's because I was being overcautious and sort of showing you what to do. But I've just lined it up into the same position again. And this time I won't, I'm just going to sort of just go for it and die cut it this time. So I'm just more conscious of showing you what was going on. So this time I'm actually going to just hold that in place, and I will do it here. I'll just be a lot bolder with it for you. There we are. It's going through. That's sticking in place. There we are. That should all the way. It should have gone through. No, it hasn't. I wonder why. That's the first time that's done that this morning. And I've cut this no end of times. Right, bear with me. I do love it when this goes live, doesn't it? So I've no problem doing that this morning. Right, I'm going to do this again. So I've got myself the second piece. I'm going to score at 9, at 3. Okay. Let me score those down. Now I'll do this really quick this time. I do want to prove this works. Okay, so I'll make my measurements there. And we just score that across. And we make these cuts again. So it's quite, up to this point, is quite straightforward. Okay. So score one, we cut down to there, and we take that off again. Okay, so we're back to where we were. So I can put my die on again. So I'm just lining this up so it sits nicely on the back of that 6x6. The marker points where the die is going to finish cutting is sort of lined up with the top of those gates there. Right, I'm just going to take off those extra bits. Okay. Right, try again. I'm going to line that up on the edge of the plate, so the edge that is going into the die cutting machine last, or sort of the final edge, is lined up where I want that circle die cut to actually finish cutting. So that's going through. The whole plate is lined up, so I'm going to put that through. Fingers crossed this time. There we are. Okay, let's get your chats up. There we are. So that has lined up this time. That's exactly where we wanted that to die cut. So we have that shape. I'll sort them plates out in a second. So we have our circle sitting there, and you can see that that has actually die cut through. Now you will always end up with an element where this won't come away itself. So what you can do is just shape with a pencil, or you can just cut it straight. It's entirely up to you. Just create a shape that sort of looks good to your eye, and just use your scissors just to come in and just trim that down so it fits to the top of that card like so. And so regardless of how you cut this, you will always end up with having to trim either side. So we got there. That was the bit I was most worried about, I must admit. Okay, so then we have those little sections there that we can just pop out. So we have that base card coming together. Now, if you can even leave the gates here as they are, and you can take these extra pieces, you can put them through the embossing folder, or any embossing folder actually. I'm going to use a wood panel like Mary did, but you can do whatever design. Emboss them, and then you can stick them onto the front. Or what you can do is take, and I've got lots of pieces everywhere, you can take one of your essential edge dies, and I'm going to use the zigzag one here. And again, you'll need your die cutting machine. Just pay attention, or just be aware of the direction of the zigzags when you do this. You want the zigzags to go upwards as opposed to sort of downwards, as it were. And so you'll see there's an edge here which is leading upwards first. So you want to line that up right to the scored line of your, turn that over, the scored line of your gates there. And you line, I'm just turning that over so I can actually line up the die. And then you want the top of the peaks to line up against the top of your gates there, and just put that into position. cutting machine again. So I'm just bringing this in again. I'm actually quite looking forward to having when Lisa brings out her die cutting machine as well. That'd be quite exciting, wouldn't it then? So what we can do, you can see we've lined up the die on top of one of the gates. I'm only going to do one of the gates on this. Line it up, position that in place, and then you'll be able to fit that onto your cutting plates. You see, because we're working with 6x6 card blank dimensions, it will fit on your cutting plate like that. And because we've only lined that up on one piece of your card blank, that will be the only section that cuts. So we can line that up, and then we can put that through our machine and back again. I'm going to leave that there for a second. So when you take this away, just take that off of there gently. You can trim that excess away there. Again, you will always have that excess there. We have a shaped gate area, and if you were to do this on both sides, then obviously those zigzags will carry on all the way across, and that's how you create that with one piece of cardstock. So that's how you create that card blank. Hopefully you followed that. It is quite straightforward. So I've done that 3 or 4 times this morning now, and it sort of becomes second nature to make that. Now, in doing that though, I did perhaps think there is maybe another way to create this. So if you wanted to do this, but creating it this way is perhaps just a little bit beyond you at this stage. I'm just going to bring up this slide again. What we can do, you can see that second set of measurements there, and I've listed one piece of 6x6 cardstock, which will be this piece here. I've listed one piece of 12" by 3" cardstock, which is this piece here, and then another piece of cardstock 7" by 3", and I'll show you how it can come together. So on the 6x6" piece here, you get your circle die and we line it up on just a single piece of cardstock, and we line it up and die cut this in exactly the same way as we did on the back of the card blank here. Okay, so basically what you've created is this, and you can see that I've done that there, and I'm just going to shape that and just cut off that excess there. Okay, so you still need to line this up and make sure that the bottom part of your card there doesn't go through the die cutting machine, but it's a lot simpler to do because you're using a single piece of cardstock and not having to worry about the extra dimensions on there. So we have that piece. Then we take our 12 by 12", sorry, our 12 by 3" piece of cardstock, and we score this piece in the way that to create the gatefold. So along its length, we score at 3" and at 9". And we fold those in. Now, it doesn't really matter at this stage whether you fold them inwards to show the textured cardstock or not. And then what we do, we take, where's the other piece that I cut? We take our die. I'm just going to take away that slide again. Yeah. Then we take our zigzag die, and instead of just cutting one of the gates at a time, we're going to keep them gates closed. We're going to line or centralize this die up along the width there. I'm going to line up the tops of those zigzags to the top of the piece of cardstock, like so. So we just then put that in place, and then we can die cut this through the whole double width through the die cutting machine again. So we take that away. So what we've created in effect is a sleeve. So we take that off. Okay. So we've got our gatefold sleeve. And what we then do, we actually slot our piece on the inside, and then we have our card blank like so. So we'd use our glue. Then we can stick this insert into the card on the back. So it's not one piece, you're using two pieces, but it does come together really nicely. So if we then use our glue, we can slot that on the inside, and we basically have the same card blank but created out of two pieces. Okay, the only difference is that when you turn that around, you will also have the zigzag along the back. So that's entirely up to you the way that you cut that. You could cut just the gates of this piece in the same way as you would do here, and then you'd have a nice straight edge along the back, but that's entirely up to you. If you wanted to disguise that, you can always cut yourself another piece of the scalloped circle and put that on the back and disguise it. Actually, that might be a quite nice thing to do. You can disguise that on the back, because then you can write your sentiment and your message on the back of the card, like so. So that's two ways to create that card blank. So hopefully that makes sense. That really is sort of the trickiest part of creating this card, actually. What we can then do with the 7-inch, with the other piece of cardstock that I said, we just line up the zigzag die along the top again. So you line up the peaks along the top, centralize it on the cardstock there. Because it's 7-inch, it's slightly larger than it needs to be, so this piece won't come away, so you just need to pull that across. Then to line this up, you can line this up on the on your sleeve on the front, like so. So line up the peaks. Now this just takes a little bit of sort of cutting. The way that I'm going to do this is cut off the excess by marking the pencil lines down each side. Okay. And I can get my trimmer. Okay, let's just bring your chat up. I'm hoping that you are with me on this. So I'm just going to take off those excess pieces on the side. So now I'm creating this to be the right length that will fit the width of my card. And I know that the zigzags line up with each other. Okay, then just holding that in place and opening up one of the gates. Again, I'm just going to use my pencil and just create a pencil line along the edge of that gate, so I know that this piece is going to fit exactly. And all I'm going to do is use my trimmer again. So I suppose effectively what you're doing is just cutting that piece in half. But because you're offering it up to what you're creating here, you know that it's going to match, okay? And that the zigzags will stay in exactly the same position all the way across. So before we attach those now to the card, let's see, I'm going to emboss them. So this is where I bring in the wood panel. Now we want to emboss with the panels going upwards, in this particular case anyway. That's embossing upwards. So do we just want to make sure I get that the right way, and we can emboss both of these panels together, because this is a 5x7 panel and your cardstock now measures 6 inches long. It fits in there, so we can emboss the two of these together, and I'm just lining those up together so all the panels are going to run concurrently, so it looks really nice to the eye when that's sitting on the front of the card. And I'm just making sure that that's lined up with the panels that are running up the way. So I hope this is making sense to you. There we are, that needs to sit like that. So close the embossing folder down, and again I'm just going to run this through the machine. Okay, and we have our lovely panels. There we are, don't they look pretty? That can sit on the front of the card like that. Okay, so now you can see how this card is coming together now. Now, I promise I will get onto some stenciling in a bit, so it was important that I just run through that, and hopefully that has all made sense to you. Okay, so we've got all that we need to start creating our images. Now, as I say, Mary's card is actually put together slightly differently. She's actually fussy cut the snowman out and used elements from the fir trees, or used the trees from the fir tree set and put it together that way. But because this is the first time that the snowman has made it onto a live, I'm actually going to stencil him as a whole, and I've die cut a circle that will mat and layer to the back of that cardstock there, and it's onto this that I will be stenciling the lovely snowman. Now, because I've already die cut that, then obviously it makes sense for me to use my tacky mat so I can keep that in place, because I think there are going to be elements of the snowman that won't actually fit onto the circle here. So I'm going to take that away. Now, the stencils for the snowman actually come with the cutting die. So this is the new format. I don't know if Lisa's going to bring it forward to every single set, but it's certainly working with the Christmas sets at the moment. So it's an A6 envelope, so it's an A6 die. I love these little dies. So you get the die from this. I won't be die cutting him out this time around, because obviously he's going to be sitting on the circle layer there. But we do have the stencils. We have a set of, let me see, let's put that there. The stencils are numbered. So we have a set of 8 stencils for the snowman. Now, I've just had a quick look at the time. Hopefully you're all okay to stay with me to do this. I understand if maybe some of you do need to go, obviously you can catch up with this on YouTube, but this will be there for future reference, and I suspect you can you'll be stopping and start it to actually make that card base. So these are the colours I'm using, very similar colours to the colours that Mary used. So all I'm doing, I'm just scanning through these stencils at the moment to find the snowman, because what I want to do, he needs to be centre and full, take centre stage on my circle die. Oh, thank you, Connie, you'll stay with me. That's great. Grandma Bonnie lived in Wales. Oh, did you live in Wales? I lived in Wales. We go back to Wales a lot. actually. Whereabouts in Wales were you, Bonnie? I have seen snow in Wales, actually, for sure. But getting back to the stencils, yeah, I just want to make sure and line up the snowman on this circle die, so I'm not going to miss any part of him. It could be that some of the trees will disappear off, but that's fine. That doesn't matter. Now, in doing that, I'm going to make sure, for these purposes, I'm just going to shift him on a little bit so I can use the pegs. There we are. So my snowman is going to take centre stage. Let's move him a little bit up there for you. Perhaps I'm just going to move my camera a little bit. Apologies if this makes you a little bit dizzy. I'm just moving that up a little bit so I've got a little bit more room. There we are. Okay. Right. I'm going to put that stencil back into its position now. Now I've positioned my cardstock. So stencil number 1 looks like we're coming into the trees. Now, I didn't bring out, let me bring out some green. So I didn't add this to the list, but you've got lots of greens to be able to choose from. So I'm just using the garden sage. And I'm just going to do the trees really lightly, actually. Mary didn't use any green on hers, but we do need to have a little suggestion that they're there. And obviously we're going to emboss them as well, but just a little bit of garden sage. It's going to be really, really light because we really do want our snowman to sort of pop out from the crowd. So a tiny little bit of garden sage there. And then again on stencil number 2, I do exactly the same, tiny little amount to say what I really will do is go to town on the snowman. So really make him pop out. So a tiny little bit of garden sage there. And just a tiny little bit there. So now we can start seeing that we've got a little bit of the snowman coming into this. We have his scarf. And I think there was a cross between, I couldn't work out the colours that Mary used. I think there's a little bit of sweet violet in there and possibly a little bit of rhubarb jam. So I'm going to go a little bit of sweet violet in there on his scarf. Now you can have loads of fun creating all sorts of different colours for your snowman. I think he's going to take on so many personalities with you all stenciling him as well. Right, we've got a little bit of the snow there, and to do that I'm just going to go really, really lightly with Surf's Up, just to add just that little bit of background there. I think actually I might go a little bit heavier on his scarf. Now this is the first time that I have stenciled him, so it'll be really nice to see this come together. I'm going to go on a lot heavier with the sweet violet, so really make his scarf stand out. There we are. Now there's a lot of stenciling on the body and the snowman itself. Now obviously he is white, isn't he? So you don't want to do a huge amount of stenciling in there, but I think by default stenciling around you are going to get that sense of where his body is going to sit. I will add a tiny little bit of colour into where his body and where his face is going to sit, and I'll show you how I'll do that. So I'm just going to do his hat to start with, so we've got that as reference. I'm just bringing in a little bit of the rhubarb jam as well as the sweet violet. So it's really nice sort of combination of those together. And I think what I'll do, just to make him sort of blend into his surroundings a little bit, I'm just going to use a tiny bit of garden sage. I'm not actually going to pick up any more colour, and I'm literally just going to go right into the edges there. So I'm not using garden sage for him to be green. I'm just using him to create that tiny little bit of outline. And because I've used the garden sage on the trees around, it's going to make him blend in. Now I'm going to do the same around his hat, but obviously I need to just take away that coloured ink there. Pick up a tiny bit more ink, tiny a little bit of ink, and just go around the top of his head there. It's not going to affect the colour that I've put on his hat, of course, and just a tiny little bit around his nose. Now, other colours I would use, I could use cobblestones, I could use a blue, I could use any of the grey colours, but you just want it to be really, really faint. Okay. So we can come in with the next stencil. This is stencil number 5. So we can use the tree bark to add his arms in. So that's going to give him his character straight away. And we can go in quite dark with that, I think. Okay. So we add that there. Now we have his hat, of course. So we want to go again very similar to what we've used already. So we come in with the sweet violet. Really lovely colour. Keep a little bit darker at the edges, a little bit lighter in the centre there, just adds that bit of shading. And I will come in with the rhubarb jam. I just like that combination that gives. And then we can do exactly the same with his scarf, I think. Matching hat, matching scarf is perfect. Okay. I think I'm going to really like stenciling him. There's going to be all sorts of different colour combinations, and I bet some of you will give him really jazzy scarves. And actually looking at it, I think once he's stenciled and embossed, I think it'll be really straightforward for you to fussy cut both his hat and his scarf separately, so you could decoupage them onto him, so you could give him a little bit of dimension as well. So I think that might be a really nice thing to do. Right, there's a few little bits of snow there, so I'm just going to use some of the Surf's Up just to add a little bit of shade in there. There we go, you can see him coming together. How cute. We have his little bobble hat. So again, actually, maybe we'll go more pink on his bobble, I think, up there. Oh, excuse me, that's a bit loud, wasn't it? And a little bit of shading of the sweet violet. And we have the other layers of his scarves. Again, I'm going to keep that in exactly the same colourway as the rest of it. So sweet purple. This sweet purple actually has got a lot of pink in it. And the way that you can see that is that the brush, where the ink sort of filters down into the bottom of the bristles, it goes very blue and then it goes very pink. So that actually gives you a really nice sort of indication of what other colours you can blend with that. I think that's a really nice tip to use. So we can take that away. Oh, this is looking really good. I'm liking that. Ah, look, we can bring his face in. Right, I'm going to do... Oh, now. We've got rusty nails here, so I'm going to give him perhaps a little orange nose. Like so. And I can use a really small stencil brush for that to get in. And then I'm going to get my... anthracite ink, actually. We've got to have coal black buttons, haven't we, really? There we go. And for his eyes and his mouth as well. Let me just add that in there. Okay. Try not to get onto his nose. There we are. And I'm just going to wipe that away from here. There. Because then I can finish off doing his scarf without picking up any of that black. So we want to keep that nice and purple. And finish off with a little bit of the rhubarb jam as well. There we are. There he is. And you can see now the colour that I actually, the garden sage I used to actually on his body has sort of really blended into the background. You wouldn't necessarily notice that that was there, but it just does just give his body an outline. So we've got all of the detail on his scarf and his hat now, and I'm going to use rusty nails for this. I think that was, hopefully that will sit really nicely on top of those colours there. If I put that on really thick or really heavy, that should give us a nice contrast for the detail and on his hat and his scarf there. Okay, let's have a see. Oh yeah, that's worked really nicely. So there he is, and there's our snowman. Comes together really nicely. As I say, I mean, if you were to create another project with this, then you'd really go to town on all the trees and everything behind as well. But this say it's not necessarily the image that we're working with for this card. But what I will do is emboss him, because I think that will just look cool. So let's fit him into our folder. Like so. I'll line that up. Now again, when I line up an embossing folder, I tend not to worry about the back of the folder at this stage. I just use my hands and to hold the actual piece of cardstock I've stenciled and the front of the embossing folder until I'm happy that everything is in position. And then once I'm happy with that, then I keep one hand to hold the two layers together, and then I close the folder on top of that and remove my other hand. So that's how I usually get to a position where I'm happy that everything is lined up and won't shift when I put it through the embossing machine. So we'll just line this up, and then we're almost ready to finish and put this card together. Okay, so there we are. We have our lovely snowman who's embossed and pops from the page there. So we have him sitting there. And that is ready to sit on the back of the card, like so. Now I think what I will do, and I think it's something that Mary done, to add a little bit of a bit more character to the card. I'm just going to get a blending mat. So now onto our embossed pieces that are sitting on the front. I think she's done some ink blending onto here as well. And I think what we can do, we'll take our brushes. I've got two brushes there. Oh, sorry if that's a bit too loud in the microphone. I'm going to take some of the rhubarb jam. Oh. Oh, my screensaver's come on, I can't see. Oh. There we are. It disappeared then. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of ink, a little bit of the rhubarb jam, I'm just going to start blending some ink just across the front there. For one, it will bring out the detail of the wood grain. And then a little bit of the sweet violet just to sit at the bottom there as well. So we've got a little bit of two-tone going on, like so. And I shall do the same on this other piece. Just go along like this. Okay, put that there, and a little bit of sweet violet at the bottom as well. Let's pick up some of that ink from there. Okay. Can move that out the way, and then this is ready to go onto the front of our card, like so. Yeah. Oh. There we are. He's a cheeky chappy, isn't he? Oh, thanks, Con. I'm hoping that I've done this justice for Mary and put this together nicely for you. I would like to say that Mary is a genius in coming up with this in the first place. And it had such an impact, it caused such a stir, didn't it, on Lisa's live, that so along with all the other design team samples as well. I mean, it's these, I think it's possibly Lisa's best Christmas release. What do you think? So there we are. We have the gates that are opening up like so. And I think what I might do before we add our snowman, I'm just going to add a little bit of ink just around the outside as well, just to give that a little bit of colour. To add a little bit around the outside, like this. Okay, so we just get that nice little pink detailing in. And that can sit on the front like so. I'm just thinking, have I added everything that Mary added to hers? Yes, apart from a little bit of glitter. Now, I've cut a sentiment from Lisa's Christmas kit from last year. I didn't add it to the list of things there, but you remember this Christmas kit that we had, and I think it's recently been as Lisa's pick on the website. But from this, I've used these stamps, which are lovely circle stamps, actually, really nice size, lots of detail on them. And there's also this set here where you can cut some tags from there, but there's also a circle die in there that fits around these tags perfectly. So that's how I was able to cut the sentiment there. But also from this kit, I don't know if you remember, Lisa gave us some rainbow glitter, and this is, it's more than just glitter, it's really, they're like sequins. And if you, when Lisa first sort of came out and launched Lisa Horton Crafts herself, we also had the mermaid tails. Do you remember those? I'm sure you do. We have lots of these. So there's a couple of different ways that you can add sort of glitter and add some real sparkle to the snowman. And of course, he is going to need to sit amongst the snow, and I think he deserves a little bit of sparkle. So I'm just going to add him to the back of my card there, and then actually I've got one of these little small one of these small little detail glue applicators. I saw people using them. I thought I need one of those myself. So I'm just going to add some glue to the details of the tree there, and perhaps a little bit to his scarf. Definitely a little bit on the bobble of his hat. So we can have a little bit that sits on his scarf also, like that, and a little bit down the bottom where he's sitting in snow here, and just perhaps some along the base of his card, like that. And then you can use the glitter of your choice. Now, if you don't have the mermaid tails, but you do have Lisa's Christmas kit, then obviously this glitter is going to be perfect for that also. Now, I haven't opened this one. Actually, maybe I should. Or maybe that's not a good idea. Not today. If I get myself a piece of cardstock, let me do it on here, just so as it catches. So we can use our glitter to create some detail on there. Now the mermaid tails has lots of different sizes of glitter detail in there. The smallest pieces are very much similar to what the glitter that we have sitting here. So, but I'm sure many of you will have the mermaid tails in still in stock here. And yeah, you need to finish off with a little bit of sparkle, don't you? Especially if Helen's watching. She would go to town. You'd have to look through all the glitter to see the snowman. Oh, isn't that pretty? Isn't that lovely? I like that. Do like that a lot. So I'm going to put that aside. I shall filter that back in a moment. Now I'm going to put my sentiment on the outside here. I think Mary had put hers on the snowman itself. Now, again, Mary did do this slightly differently, and I think what I'll do in a second, I'll just leave that to sit there and dry. But if I bring in another piece of cardstock, and I'll bring in the two elements that Mary used to create hers. Now you can see that by stenciling our Wjnter Snowman, that once he's coloured, he's so easy to fussy cut out, particularly if you emboss him. So that's how I was able to get him fussy cutted just like that. As I say, I'm pretty sure it was the fir trees that Mary used. And she was able to die cut those, and you can stencil them. There are stencils there, but she's used it white and just added the glitter to them. But if you look at Mary's card, there is a sky background in there, a blue background with what appears to be clouds on there. Now to create that, you again go back to your essential edges, the same set as we used to cut the top of the fences there, but you use one of these scalloped edges, and you just die cut that into a piece of cardstock, so you've got yourself a template like this. Okay, and then with a nice blue or colour of your choice, you use your scalloped edge as a template to create the clouds. So I'm going to use the Surfs Up and just do it really gently. And I've just positioned, you just do it, position your stencil randomly. So then you add your ink, and you can start seeing you're creating this cloud effect. And then just continue down, moving that stencil in different ways down your cardstock, and just add more ink to create more of those clouds. You don't need to add too much colour, and as you go down that page and create different areas of clouds, you fill in the white areas with a little bit of blue, so you're not left with white stark clouds, but you are left with this sky and cloudy skyscape, just like so. Mary does this a lot actually on her cards, which is really, really effective. So you have that cloud effect, which is so pretty. You've got a stencil here, which you can keep for another time. And then imagine our snowman was all stenciled and looked lovely, as this one does. And then you can layer up your trees and your stencil on top of that. And that is how we can create sort of backgrounds, our own custom make backgrounds for that as well. So there's lots of fun for that that can be had. Say, I'm pretty sure that's the way that Mary created it. I stenciled this purely using the stencil, the snowman stencil in itself. Lots of different ways to do that. Yeah, hopefully I've sort of demystified that card for it, and I've managed to explain the card blank well enough for you to be able to create this shape. This shape would work with so many different other images. You can use your robin, you can use just the trees in the background as well, or a sentiment. You can use different embossing folders for the front. You can make your gates smaller so you see more of the image behind, as opposed to keeping them higher. Yeah, it's just so versatile. But we had a little bit of a false start at the front at the beginning, but we got there. As I say, there's two ways to make the card. Either by one piece of cardstock and you have that like so, or you have it with two pieces and create like that, which ends up creating exactly the same shape also. As I say, you can turn it around, you can disguise the zigzags at the back if you want, and that's where you can put your other piece of cardstock and your sentiment on the back as well. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that. I really loved making that. It won't be the first time that you see the snowman on a live. I'm sure I'll be using him again and again. I shall leave that with you today. Thanks so much for sticking with me till the end. Oh, thanks, Mary. I didn't realise you were watching. Perhaps that was best. That would have made me nervous. Thanks for making that card, Mary. Thanks for talking me through that last night. That was perfect. I've got that working in the end. So I shall see you again next week. Enjoy your crafting, enjoy your snowmen when they come through to you onto your desks, and I shall see you again soon. Take care.